Greetings, Alphas, and welcome to Board with Video Games, the gaming podcast that strives for the right balance of coverage for the games you play on your table and on your television. You can think of us as the Tenacious D of gaming podcasts. We're a proud member of the PSVG Podcast Network. I am one of your hosts, Kyle, and joining me on this co-op adventure, the guy who still occasionally finds time for me despite his career taking off. Josh, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. I'm flattered you think my career is taking off. I don't think it's going anywhere.
Well, I mean, the other member of Tenacious D is named Kyle. I felt like I had to own that, and then I would give you Jack Black. So
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I should probably mute my phone.
That is okay. So
I think Kyle Gass is actually pretty successful. I just don't know his credits.
No, I
think he's like a writer.
I feel like he's doing fine.
Yeah.
I think
he's okay.
I think just Jack Black's probably a little better well known, if you had to compare them. So
yeah, he was in Jumanji.
That he was in the latest Jumanji movie, which I have not seen yet, but I really do want to see. So speaking of which, okay, so I'm gonna go off track here for just a moment. As you listeners know, we do have a Discord you can join, and I encourage you to join this Discord because there was a very controversial conversation happening in there today. And Josh, I have to say, I am astonished and hurt and very disappointed in you, sir. So today we had the very, trying topic that was covered about whether pineapple is appropriate on pizza. And now let me clarify. I think pineapple is great. I think pizza is great. However, putting them together make a less quality product of both of those things. Yet, I heard, Josh, that you are a fan of pineapple on pizza. Defend yourself, sir.
Here's the thing. Fan is, it's a polarizing word. I'm not opposed to pineapple on pizza. I wouldn't go out of my way to order it, but if I'm getting a pizza with someone else and they want pineapple on their pizza, more power to you. I enjoy it. It tastes good.
That's why you can get your pizzas half and half, sir.
You can, but I enjoy it. I just wouldn't normally get it. Also, Kevin said he thinks New York style is the best pizza, and obviously Chicago is the best style of pizza in the United States of America. Otherwise, it's Naples.
Here's an interesting thing, though. If you order a pizza in Chicago, typically you're just getting a regular pizza.
No, like deep dish.
What's that?
Deep dish.
Well, right.
Chicago style.
Right, like people in Chicago, like if you're going out for Chicago, like that's a special trip. Like that's not like we're getting pizza, so we all get deep dish pizza. So my partner, my wife, who is from that area, we have gone back and visited her family numerous times. I've yet to have deep dish pizza in Chicago with her, even though we've been there, I don't know, 20 times in the last 3 years.
Gosh.
I know, it's very sad. Now I get Portillo's regularly, which is makes up for it as far as I'm concerned, but. Hey, this isn't a food podcast, though. Clearly, we probably need to have one of those. This is a gaming podcast, so thanks very much for joining us each week, everyone. As always, if you have any feedback or questions or suggested topics, hit us up at Board with VG on Twitter and Instagram. Check out all the awesome pictures that Josh is posting over there from the wonderful games he is playing. Also, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/boardwithvg. Feel free to give us a 5-star rating over there. I think I would love some feedback on the Facebook thing. I know I don't use Facebook a lot. You have left Facebook. So not that I want to get rid of our account there, but I don't know how often it's used. So if people find value in it, I will definitely put more effort into keeping that up and posting there more, but I just don't know how much the value is for people. So let us know if you like the Facebook, and you are participating there or would like to participate there more, let us know. Also, if you want to communicate more long form, boardwithvg@gmail.com is where you can send all of those long form thoughts that you have. And I will not ask for fan fiction because Josh will get angry, but we'll totally take it. And as always, use that hashtag boardwithvg on all the social media so we know what you're up to. But hey, that's enough housekeeping. That's enough food talk. Josh, what have you been playing on your tabletop, sir?
Oh boy, what if I don't know why I thought we'd go video games first. I wasn't even prepared for this.
We don't even we never go video games first.
I know, I'm all out of sorts. So I'll tell you what. I'll tell you my story first. So, the wife went out to wherever,
This is a great
somewhere
story so far.
unimportant. She went out shopping with her mom, to get a car seat for the kid, in our Toys R Us closing down sale.
Mm-hmm.
So I packed up the baby, and I was like, you know what? Let's head down to the FLGS. We call it That's Entertainment here, not
Mm-hmm.
entertaining entertainment.
Okay.
It's our local. It's been my comic book shop forever, and we've just been blessed with these two awesome girls who decided to pick up and run with their tabletop section. So within the past 2 to 3 years, they've really exploded it into board game demos, by like twice a month, giveaways, and they get everything. They get, like, if a new game comes out, I know I can get it there. So I went there with the intent to get Thanos Rising,
Mm-hmm.
because I had seen some videos. It looks really cool. It looks like almost like Legendary style, but definitely a different formula in the way the game is played. And it's by Upper Deck, which is also behind Legendary.
Mm-hmm.
So I really wanted to check it out and see what was going on. So I walk into the store, go to the tabletop section. I don't find it, but I'm looking at all these games that I want to get that I haven't seen in stock since the last time I was there. And I wish I could name drop things, but I can't necessarily even remember. There were so many different ones. Rockets and Ray Guns was one of them. I've seen a few times on Dice Tower. A few other games that I really was interested in grabbing. But ultimately, I landed on Century Gollum Edition because I was under the impression it was hard to find, and I guess it's not the case now.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it was it a Kickstarter that they decided to release when they said they were going to, or something like that?
I think so. Yeah, I think they had originally said that it was going to be like a Kickstarter that was only available then, and then people got bummed about it. I think that was the story. Yeah.
Okay, so it was only $40, and I expected it to be more, which I think is why I grabbed it right away. I was looking at a couple of games that were like $60, $70 range, and I grabbed Muse for my wife because she had been looking at that. That's from Quick Fun Games, I believe, or Fun Quick Games, or Fun Again Games. Something has fun and games in the title. I think it's Quick Fun Games. So we brought him home, surprised her with them, and we decided to play Century Gollum Edition that night. So we put the baby to bed, hunkered down on the living room floor. And I shared some pictures on Instagram. I'm not kidding when I say just from opening the box, I was impressed right away. First of all, the instructions is one double-sided sheet, but it's a nice piece of. It's not papery. It's like a very nice quality sheet of. It's not even cardboard, whatever it is, laminate, whatever. So right away, I was excited about how easy it was going to be to learn these rules, and it was very easy to learn. Plus, the second I took off the instruction sheet was this very, very colorful gem display, which I've never seen in a game the way that this was presented, and then just a deck of cards, a large deck, but a deck of cards. So as we unpacked it, instead of going through the cards like sometimes I'll do in games, we just kind of started reading the rules and the setup. So I'll explain the game to you as I was unpacking it. So you separate these gems by color in a row. So the gems are worth a monetary amount, we'll say, or like they have costs to them. And you start, I might screw up the colors, but you get yellow as a base gem, then yellow evolves to blue. Yellow evolves to green. Green evolves to turquoise. Turquoise evolves to magenta. Magenta is the highest cost gem you can get. But the only way to get to these is by, I'm going to call it evolving, but it's not necessarily the terminology, but by evolving your gems to get higher gems. And what you need gems for is buying Gollum cards. Golem cards have victory points on them. And the way the game works is as you buy the first person to 6 Golem cards starts the end game phase. So that means that, the person who goes next will be the last turn on a 2-player game, and etc. on a 3 to 4-player game. When you set the game up, the top of your table will say on the right side, it's a little different than most games. I would say most draw piles are on the left to right. This goes right to left. So the top pile is golems. You start with that. You go 5 cards out for golems. So you can all see the victory points that are available on the table. But as soon as one is, we'll say, bought, another one replaces. They move to the left, and another one replaces it. The reason why you're moving to the left is because on the golem pile, you have copper and silver coins. And these are coins. These are nice, heavily weighted coins with great texture. I was very impressed with the quality of that as well. And you'll put 2 times the number of players on top of each pile. So the leftmost will get copper, which is worth 3 victory points at the end of the game. And the second leftmost is silver, which is only worth 1 victory point, which is weird. They value copper over silver. Then the next row down is the merchant deck, and you can have 6 merchant cards out. And you do the same thing, but for merchant cards, let's say you want the 4th card from the left in, you need to put gems that you own on each other card that you're not drawing to the left. So if you ever played like Castles of Mad King Ludwig,
yep, absolutely,
you're increasing value of those cards that haven't been drawn. Also, the leftmost card is always free to draft, which is good if you want it. Now I'm telling you all about these cards. They don't mean anything to you if you don't know what they do. So you also have a starting hand. In a starting hand, you get 2 cards. You have a card that gives you gems. And I believe, I can't remember the picture, but basically what I thought was really cool was the artwork on these cards. Not only do they look incredible, but they also show in the artwork the gems that you're getting from the card. So the card that you start with is 2 yellows. And if you look in the artwork somewhere, they will be just 2 yellow gems, and that's it for gems. And if you have a card that's like 2 greens and a blue, it'll have those in the artwork, but no other gems. So I thought it was pretty cool, like little hidden Easter egg thing. And the second card you get is a, we'll call it an evolve or trade up card. So it shows 2 grayed out gems and an arrow pointing up. And that means you can upgrade 1 gem twice or 2 gems once with that card. And when you play a card, they don't go to a discard pile. You play them right in front of you, which I guess is a discard pile. But you can keep playing as long as you're getting cards. And then you rest, and then you draw all your cards back into your hand. But you only have 1 action per turn. And it is either play a card, rest, draw a card buy a card from the merchant, or get a golem card. Those are your 4 actions. When you look at the merchant like available pool, you'll see cards like trade in 5 yellows for a blue and 2 greens, or trade in 2 blues for a purple, a yellow, and 2 greens. Like there's all these different combinations. Even after we played, my wife was like, I want to look through the rest of them. I said, no, don't, like, leave it. Leave it for a surprise, because we only got like an 1/8 of the way through each deck, maybe even less.
Right.
So there's so much more possibility. I love this game.
Awesome.
It was so much fun. It was entertaining. It was easy to learn. It's gorgeous to look at. And there's a lot of replayability. I thought I won 80 to 78, and I completely forgot she had coins. So she ended up beating me 88-80. So I did lose. But immediately afterwards, she's on her phone looking up Plan B games. She's like, "Oh, they make Azul." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't even realize that." She's like, "Oh, they have a playmat." So we immediately ordered the playmat. So now we have the playmat coming, and then we're going to look into getting Century Spice Roads, and now Eastern Wonders, I think, is the next one coming out, and that's available for pre-order already. They're like $27.99 on Miniature Market. I checked. I think I'm just going to go to my FLGS and pay the 40 for a Century because they have it there, Spice Roads, just to have it, and then maybe I'll pre-order Eastern Wonders, but I can't recommend it highly enough. Yeah, I mean, I could ramble on about it, so I'll just say, if you like drafting games, it is very similar to drafting games. It definitely adds some different like core mechanics to it that change the whole feel of that, and I can't wait to try it with 4 players as well. But I do have a friend who's coming over while my wife's out with her family on Saturday night, and we're going to play that after the kid goes down. So I look forward to playing it a lot more. I think it's going to be my go-to game for a while.
So do you know? Okay, I did a couple fact-checking things so people don't yell at us. Okay. It looks like the Gollum edition was originally a convention exclusive.
Oh, okay.
That you could only get if you went to conventions, but then people were like, no, you should let us buy it. So then they made an actual print run of it. And it looks like Thanos Rising is actually from USAopoly.
Oh, it's USAopoly. Oh, sorry. Yeah. There's a new one coming out from Upper Deck. I'm sorry. I just watched it on Dice Tower. That's why I got confused.
Yeah, no, there is a new one because I've seen people like tweeting pictures of it, and it has like Black Panther and like all this other stuff, and I'm like, oh, what is? Yeah, so I've seen pictures of that, but yeah, that's the. So my understanding, and I could be wrong, my understanding is that this is just a straight reskin / re-theme of Century Spice Road.
Yeah, that's what I understand too.
So why both versions? Like, if the gameplay is the same, why do you want the Spice Road version as well?
I think because of the art style.
Okay.
And I will be honest with you, it's one of the first times my wife and I have seen so eye to eye on a game. She wasn't even, we were just sitting down, and I was like, I ordered the mat. And she was like, what? I thought it was.
Did you get the Gollum mat then, or did you get the Spice Road? Okay.
I got the Gollum mat because she didn't think it was out yet. She wasn't mad. She was like, how much did you spend? I told her. And it was a little bit, the shipping was like a third of the price of the mat. But no, and I know that there's no gems in Century Spice Road. I know they use more, like, I don't want to say tactile, but they use different types of items, and the artwork's totally different. But yeah, as far as I know, the game itself is the same. But I'm excited to play it, and I'm more excited to own it and support them because of the quality of the product I got for, honestly, a game they could have charged $20 more for.
Right.
Just by component quality alone.
Yeah, they seem to have really been, I mean, between Azul and Century Spice Road and now Eastern Wonders or whatever the next one is.
I kept saying Eastern Promises, and that's a very violent movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it seems like they've been really putting out some quality stuff in the last couple of years here. So that's super exciting.
I'm excited. What did you get to the table, sir?
So, as people who have listened to the podcast for a while know, and I have probably mentioned it more than once, I have talked about the Dresden Files from the book series perspective. But last year, I believe, a Dresden Files board game came out. The Dresden Files Cooperative, the Dresden Files Cooperative card game came out from designer Eric Vogel and published by Evil Hat Productions. And this is a cooperative I shouldn't say deck building, hand management game, I guess, for 1 to 5 players. It's interesting because you actually play through different scenarios. You play through scenarios from the books. So it's actually kind of interesting that, like, as I'm playing through these scenarios, they're like characters I know from the books that I know, from the situations that I'm familiar with the book. But I've only played this game solo so far. My wife hasn't wanted to join me for this, which is fine. That's totally cool. I don't usually play board games by myself, but I was like, hey, I got to get something played for this week, and this thing has been staring at me from my shelf for a while, so I'm going to go ahead and give this a whirl. And overall, I'll say it's pretty fun. Basically, what happens in the game is when you're playing solo, I actually was controlling 3 different characters because you have to control Harry Dresden. He's a requirement to be played in the game. But then after that, if you have 2, 3, 4, whatever else you have, you can kind of pick from the array of characters who are available who they want to have, and they all have variable player powers, and they can do some different things. I was playing by myself. I was controlling 3 different characters is basically what I was doing. And I like the game, but some of the stuff is a little, I think I'm going to have to play it some more to really get a handle on how everything works. So basically, all of the characters have a set of 6 or so cards that they start the game with, and then they have a power that they can use once per game, and then another power that happens whenever you discard a card. And you have a combined set of fate points that all the players share, and that's where all of your actions come from, are by spending these fate points. And every card, or most cards, cost a certain number of fate points. So if I'm very selfish, I might spend a ton of fate points to do something, which might then hamstring the other players as to what they're able to do. You can always discard cards to earn fate points back. So if a card costs 4 fate points to play, if you discard it, you get 4 fate points back, which is nice. So it definitely feels equal there. But also when you discard a card for fate points, each character has a special ability that it triggers at that time as well. What you're trying to do, and this is where things get a little confusing, is you have a certain number of cases, which are just cards that are on the board that need to be solved. And they basically, to solve them, they just need a certain number of tokens on them. You have a certain number of cases for each scenario, and you have a certain number of villains for each scenario. So say you start with 4 cases and 4 villains, okay? So as soon as the number of cases solved is smaller than the number of villains defeated, the game ends. So when you start, you have 4 cases unsolved and 0 villains defeated. 0 villains defeated. That was hard to say. Once you solve a case, obviously now you have 3, but then when you defeat a villain, you're at 1. So you eventually got to get it so it flips. So it's like 2 villains defeated, only 1 case left unsolved. Now the game, you have 1. You do this by playing different cards out of your hand. Sometimes your cards will be attacks that can defeat villains. Sometimes they'll allow you to investigate the cases that are on the board. All of the cards for what you're playing against are in 2 rows in front of you. But when you are playing cards, they can only affect things that are a certain number of spaces from the left edge. So you have to always be thinking about, okay, like say I have a whole bunch of cards that I can use to solve cases, but they all only can affect cards 2 or less spaces from the left edge, but all of the cases are 3 or more away. Well, now what am I going to do with my hand? How am I going to handle this? Because drawing cards is very rare in the game. You don't get to do it very often. So then it's kind of trying to work together to manipulate the cards that are on the board through all of the players to get cards in the proper order so everyone can effectively use the cards they have in their hand. And then you're also rolling dice. So say that my card can affect any card. Say it's an attack card, and I can attack a villain with it. And it's any villain that is 2 spaces in or less. But then I roll a dice as well for that card. Because say the distance is 2 and a dice roll. If I roll a negative on that dice, now suddenly it can only affect a villain that is on the left edge. And maybe now there aren't any villain on the left edge because I was really counting on getting a blank or a plus so I could do 2 or 3. So you have all these well-played plans that you're doing, but then it also sometimes, like, because of dice rolls, just doesn't work out. Because you're like, darn it, like I had to roll 2 dice and I got 2 negatives, so now I can't do anything with this card. So that's probably very confusing, and I was honestly really confused while I was learning the game, and I had to look things up multiple times. I think I have it down now, and I'm definitely going to play it more. I think if you're a fan of the Dresden Files, and I think if it's something that you enjoy, and you enjoy card games, I think it's something to take a look at. If you're not a fan, I think it's a little more fiddly than I would like. And there's an end game showdown thing that happens that I'm not even going to try to explain how that works, because it involves the number of fate points you have and the number of things that you solved and how many dice you need to roll then, and it's super complicated. At least it was for me. So the Dresden Files cooperative card game, overall, I like it. I think if you're a fan of the Dresden Files, it's worth a look. It's not super expensive. It's had a continued support since the game came out. I think there's like 5 mini expansions for it already, and there's another one coming out, I think, in June this year. So if you're a fan, give it a whirl. If you're not a fan of the Dresden Files, though, I think it's going to be, for me at least, the mechanics aren't quite as solid as I would want them to be to recommend the game to other people. But like I said, if you enjoy that style of game, or if you really enjoy hand management and kind of almost trying to solve this logic puzzle that you're trying to play out in front of you, maybe still be worth a look for you. So that's the Dresden Files cooperative card game.
Nice.
Josh, sir, what have you been playing on your television?
No surprises here. I have been playing Far Cry 5.
Are you still enjoying it as much as you were before?
I am very much still enjoying it. I will say I like to believe myself a man who doesn't believe in jinxes. However, I did say believe twice there too, so I feel like that's another jinx. We talked about it last week on the podcast, and then we talked about it in Discord a little bit, and I'm like, I haven't been experiencing any bugs. I don't know what everyone is talking about. And all of a sudden, like, after I completed Fate's region, like, man, the bugs were falling out of the sky. Not literally, but like, it was just nothing bad, nothing like mission breaking or game breaking. But there were a couple times where like I should have died and didn't, or things were clipping out. Or I remember I landed a helicopter because I saw someone with a like the diamond above their head, like the looter's mine thing. So I landed the helicopter because they were like on the top of a hill. I went to talk to him. I turned around, the helicopter was gone.
That's happened to me multiple times.
I'm in the middle of nowhere. I gotta fast travel all the way and start over. So like I've had a couple glitches. Otherwise, I'm still loving it. I have to find 2 more shrines left in Fate's region. Apparently, it's a problem that people are having. So because they're not popping on the maps when you fly by with a helicopter, and
they don't pop in, so you can't see that they're there.
Yeah, and I pretty much have ungraded every area in Fate's region. So I've been trying to. I want to complete her area before I move on, just because the completist in me. So I'm doing that, and I've been searching and searching. So I went online and I found some maps that show where all the locations are. The problem is I can't.
You don't know which ones you've done.
Right. So I got to go to each 16 or hope I just find the 2 right away. So I took some screenshots on my phone so I can zoom in and make sure I go to the right spot. I did try, was it Impact Winter?
I think that's right.
Okay. So I won a game. I won the Free Code Friday contest last Friday, which was awesome. From Major Nelson. I just usually enter it no matter what the game is, unless it's like a game I've heard of that I have no interest in, because the last thing I want is to win something I don't want. Impact Winter, right? Impact Winter?
That is it. Yep.
Okay. So I had never heard of this game. I did see it pop up like a couple days prior to that Free Code Friday contest. And I won it. So awesome. So I was like, great, I'll check it out. I popped it on that night after it downloaded, and it is my least favorite genre of game, which is survival, in the means of like How to Survive and Firewatch and all these kind of games. That being said, I didn't give up on it right away. I like a lot of those games I kind of do. Like I kind of just stop. Essentially, you start. They don't really give you a time or a place necessarily. It's the winter. You are in a snowed-in, abandoned church. You have, I'm going to say 5 people with you and a robot. So I'm saying future right away, but they don't tell you timeline. And your robot receives a message from what I'm going to presume is aliens, but I have no clue. And they say, okay, you have to survive however long it was, 30 days, I think, until the people who sent the signal get to where you are. So you go through your tutorial is basically introducing yourself to all the people in the bunker with you, and someone cooks and someone does tech and someone does someone's like a mechanic, etc. They all have different jobs, and your job is to keep them happy by feeding them, giving them water, making sure they rest, sending jobs to them, and then you essentially explore. So, I talked to everyone. I just wanted to get out and see what it looks like, and it's a very nice looking game. Aesthetically, it's very pretty, even though it's mostly snowy.
Mm-hmm.
But the effects are really good, and from everything from your footprints stay, so it's easy to track your footprints back. And I remember walking a surprising amount of distance before I found anything.
Mm-hmm.
You have a little mini map, but I ended up finding like a snowed in house, and I was able to enter it, and I found like food. And then I found that situation where I can't carry as much as I want to carry back.
Right.
I have like a empty gas container. I'm like, oh, I might need this though. What if I leave this? So that's why I hate like kind of games like that. Is not hate. Why I have a tough time with them.
So you're saying you're not going to play State of Decay 2 with me?
No, I'm definitely in on State of Decay 2 because I tried State of Decay. I think it would be way more fun co-op.
Agreed. But I love State of Decay, but yeah.
Yeah, and the controls are a lot different than this. This game is a top-down, essentially.
Okay.
Survival, like Flame in the Flood, even.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
That. I don't like when I don't feel like I have control of what I want to happen, or I have to work too hard to do it, and whatever my own issue is. But it was a free game. If it's $30, I don't think it's worth $30. To be critical of it, I think it's probably going to end up on Game Pass, or maybe even Games with Gold. So if you don't have it, I would say either wait it out, or maybe I'll try to stream a little bit of it so you can get an idea of what it looks like.
Gotcha.
But that's it for me. What about you, sir?
So for me, I've mostly just been playing the games that have been on my list for a while as I eagerly anticipate God of War coming out next week. So Far Cry 5, Ni no Kuni 2, and Overwatch are what I have been playing. I want to highlight one thing that happened in Far Cry 5, which was very, very humorous to me. And I've been sharing on Discord all these issues, quote unquote, that I've been having, and none of them have been really like you said, none of them are game breaking. They're just kind of things that are annoying. Like I had a person get stuck under a dock. I had one of my guns for hire blocking the only exit from one of the prepper stashes, so I had to literally shoot him so I could walk over him and then revive him because he wouldn't move or follow. He just stood in the doorway.
Do you have the lady with the helicopter yet?
Yes, I do have her.
So I used her for the first time today. And the second that I called her to me because I needed a helicopter, she was running to me. She fell into a creek and hurt herself and was calling for help. I had to go rescue her from a creek. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, I've had this really bad problem. I've been using the flamethrower a lot lately just for funsies, and I keep killing my guns and fangs for hire because I keep just burning everything. Yeah. But anyway, so that happened, and then I have this really bad problem where whenever you go to the county jail, you know how people will be like laying in like the medical wing, like they'll be like levitating like 4 feet above the bed, which is kind of humorous. But the one that caught me, that it was funny because my wife just happened to be watching this one, is you know how you'll get like airplanes that are looking for you?
Yeah.
I had done a really epic moment where I'd sniped one and like it crashed and it was awesome and I was really excited about it. But I was like in the middle of a mission, or I had just cleared like an outpost or something, and I see the little indicator come up and I'm like, oh, it must be an airplane. So this airplane flies over and it's like, oh, there he is, we're gonna get him. And the airplane like comes way down towards the ground and tries to turn, and it just smashes into the side of a mountain and explodes. Like just, and my wife looks and she's like, did you shoot that down? I'm like, I didn't do anything. I did absolutely nothing. It just did that. So,
oh boy.
Yeah, I was like, I don't even know why. Like, there was no reason it had to come down and turn. It just like came way down and turned, and just smashed into the side of the mountain and blew up in a blaze of glory. And I was just like, I can't. Okay, that's cool. But I'm still having fun with it. I have gotten to the point where I have face area. I have all of the stuff done. I should say it's all of it done, but I have reached the point where I can do the final mission in Faith's area. So then I'll have 2 of the 3 areas completed. But I haven't. They're not 100%ed by any means. But with God of War right around the corner, I'm like, I just got to get this done. So I'm just not quite going for the completionist method. I do really want to briefly talk about Overwatch, though. Today we're recording on Tuesday the 10th, which means there was a large, very large Overwatch patch today, which brought in the new PvE event, which is Retribution. And this is last year there was a PvE event called Uprising, which was taking you on Tracer's first mission. And it was fun. It was cool. You know, I really enjoyed playing it, and it was fun because you could do it in the story mode, or you could do it with any heroes you wanted to, kind of in 2 different modes there. It was a good time, and it was pretty fun. So this is kind of their second stab at, I shouldn't say second because there's other PvE missions, but this is really the second stab at more story missions as far as Overwatch goes. And this has you following the Black Watch, which is basically the Black Ops for Overwatch, as they go out on a mission and things go a little bit wrong. And one of the members, not to spoil anything, kind of takes things into their own hands. There's a really funny moment that I will potentially talk with Josh offline that I don't want to spoil for anyone if you really care about Overwatch lore that happens. But then they basically have to fight their way out, and you're playing with Reaper, McCree, Moira, and one other person. Why am I blanking? Oh, Genji. So that's who you're playing as. It's fun. It's a good time. The normal mode is very easy, like extremely easy. Uprising, the normal mode was not challenging, but like you had to put some effort forward. The normal mode on this is pretty much a walk in the park. Like, it's not challenging at all. But it's still fun. It's still interesting. I think it's quite a bit shorter than Uprising was last year, which is a bit disappointing. But it is kind of cool that it's taking place on a map that will eventually be a new map in the game. It fills in some story things, definitely lays the groundwork for some story things to come in the future, as well as some possibly new heroes that we could see. And it's kind of cool. It's fun. The skins for it are really awesome. That you can earn the new Orisa victory pose is like the best victory pose in the game by far. So that's cool. She for the holiday event, she had an emote where she got a gift and it was a puppy. So she had and she's like this big robot. So she had a puppy. Well, her victory pose now is her holding the puppy and it licks her face, and it's just really adorable. So I will definitely be getting that. But overall, again, just really happy with all the continued content that they're pumping out, that Blizzard is pumping out for Overwatch, and I still continue to play it pretty regularly. And by pretty regularly, I mean like 4 or 5 days a week. So it's good. It's really fun. I definitely will try to get as much time out of this event as I can. I don't know, though, if for the whole 20 days the event runs, I don't know if I will be playing this quite as much as I did the Uprising event. But supposedly, some of the streamers that I follow have been teasing about how tomorrow, so when you listen to this, yesterday, there's going to be some big announcement or some announcement about this event that they haven't said yet. So I'm wondering what that's going to be. It'll be interesting to see what that is and kind of what they're teasing that they haven't revealed yet. So, hey, if you haven't played Overwatch in a while, definitely worth a reason to jump back in and get some sweet, sweet PvE action. So, Josh, should we jump into the topic of the show?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, so Plaid Hat Games recently announced their new game, Starship Samurai, is available for pre-order. It is a 2 to 4 player area control game with massive mech combat. So that sounds cool. Plaid Hat makes excellent games. Definitely interested in what this game is, but what I'm more interested in the fact that it is called Starship Samurai. What a cool mashup, taking starships, which are awesome, and samurais, which are awesome, and slamming them into a game together and saying, hey, we're going to mash this stuff up. Not smash it up, but mash it up and make something that's hopefully going to be greater than the sum of its parts. So we thought, well, actually, I thought and told Josh this is what we're doing. I thought it might be cool to come up with some ideas for our own mashups or our own concepts of things that we'd want to put together that are maybe disparate, that might come together and make a really cool game, whether it be video game, board game, anything like that. So, Josh, since I've had a long time to think about this, I will propose to you my first idea to see what you think about it.
That's
How does
a
that
great
sound?
idea.
Okay, so here's my first idea. We're both board game fans, right?
Yeah, I play them every once in a while.
Yeah, we like board games. There's another thing that board game players like to do, and we've done it too. That's create podcasts, right?
Oh boy, I don't like where this is going.
I think there should be a podcast based board game that's like, in my mind, like an area control game. Or no, I should say resource management game where like you're trying to, with your workers, that's a little worker placement action of like you're trying to like get like the best guests, or you're trying to get like new equipment, or you're trying to get like better recording time or better hosting, and you're trying to put all these things together in order to create the most like established podcast network. And you can have different topics that it covers, or it could be all focused on one. You could try to diversify and have a lot of different things that are going on with it, or you could really try to refine it and narrow it down into the best of very one thing. I think a worker placement / resource management podcast based board game is ripe for the market. What say you, sir?
Yeah, I mean,
like, you can just say it's stupid. It's fine. I can tell by the look on your face.
It's like, I'm just trying to think of the best way to say it. It's like that game Network. I haven't played Network, but
right. They've done this with like television and stuff.
Yeah, that's what Network is like. You building your show lineup as a network producer or director, which is supposed to be very good. I think it could work. I mean, there's definitely far worse premises out there for board games.
that is damning with faint praise if I've ever heard it. It's not as bad as it could be. Would you have any interest in playing a board game based off of creating a podcast network?
No. Sorry.
Well,
on theme.
I had to try something new and unique. I think it might be interesting. I think it would have an opportunity. It's definitely a unique theme that we don't get very often, which I think would be helpful. So that is
just because I'm not on board doesn't mean the people listening aren't on board.
I know that one is a stretch. So what are you going to do? So that's my first suggestion. A podcast.
Better than any of my suggestions.
Well, we haven't heard of them yet. We don't know that yet. A podcast-focused worker placement / resource management game. That's what I think should come up next. Plaid Hat, get to work on it. Josh, what is the first game that you think, or first mashup you would like to propose?
So I was thinking video games, and then I started thinking about like I'm getting some mashups I wanted. Like Splinter Cell is coming to Ghost Recon Wildlands. That's pretty cool. Then I was thinking, the obvious thing, like Xbox needs a Smash Brothers game. Mm-hmm. Like that's something a lot of people want. But what I would really want to see is could be really for any console. It could be for all consoles. The problem is licensing. But I would love to see a fighting game that is in the style of Soul Calibur, like or even like Virtua Fighter, like the 3D you can sidestep and stuff, mixing up all fighting game characters. I know it's not really a mashup per se because it's from one genre, but like the ultimate kind of way they did Marvel vs. Capcom, you have your Mortal Kombats, you have your Injustice, you have your Street Fighter, you have your Soul Calibur, you have your Bushido Blade. You get all these fighting games from all these generations. The problem is it would be a nightmare for someone to program.
But we don't got to worry about that right now.
Combination, like for them to all be compatible in a fighting game together,
right?
Would be insane. But I really think like people feel so tied into specific licensing or titles when they make a game, which obviously makes sense. Like, but if you look at like when Street Fighter did Cross Tekken, and look at how many people were disappointed we never got Tekken Cross Street Fighter.
True.
They announced, because you have these two different universes where you're taking in the different art styles and the control styles and fighting styles, but when you play Tekken, you're getting Tekken characters. When you play Street Fighter, you're getting Street Fighter characters. They're all the same, so to speak. I know they all have their own. They're all diverse, but I think Injustice 2 like really hit the closest to that, where every character felt like a different character.
Right.
Like playing as Batman didn't feel like playing as Wonder Woman because they're their moves, even the Ninja Turtles, each one felt totally different than the other one. But I think like having something like that, because like it would be really easy for me to be like, oh, I'd like to see Master Chief in Soul Calibur as a downloadable character, like they did with Spawn,
Right.
back in the day. But I think like something crazy just might work, almost like the PlayStation tried to do with the Battle Royale All Stars or whatever, but it was more like a Smash clone.
Yep.
I'd like to see it more like 1-on-1, maybe even like 2-on-2, like Tekken Tag.
That'd be kind of cool. I think it'd be really awesome to, and I obviously, you know, there was the Tekken one, but like having like Street Fighter characters or Mortal Kombat characters fight in like 3D space.
Yeah.
Like that would be a really interesting thing because like, yeah, it kind of has existed, but I think that would be a really interesting thing, especially like you said, with how combos work in like a 2D fighting game compared to a 3D fighting game and how all of that works. Like that would be really cool to see all of that work. And then you could bring in the Smash Brothers characters too and add platforms.
Yeah, maybe.
Or not. Okay.
Getting too close to Smash Brothers on that.
Well, you know, we got to get those Nintendo fans on board.
Yeah,
so
no,
they buy lots of games.
We can have Zelda in there. It's fine.
That's true. That's
no
true.
Link though.
Are you excited for Soul Calibur 6?
Yeah, right, I'm really excited. I was really bummed when I saw they had it playable at PAX East.
Are you a fan of having Geralt in there?
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I like how they do that. I like he seems to fit with the specifically with the characters from Soul Calibur. They're of that time period, or the look of that time period, so to speak. Like I think he fits well. It'll be interesting though, because he's primarily a magic user, right?
Well, I mean, he's got his 2 swords. Like,
yeah. But I think in the trailer I saw him using like a lot of spells as well, which is good, which is fine. But it's Soul Calibur hasn't really had a character like that, like a like a spell user too much. So I think it's great. It's a welcome addition. I like how they don't put too many cameos in their games. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw one more face, but I think like they don't do more than that usually.
I know you already said Master Chief, but if you could pick one more character who is going to be on all of the platforms, so not like specific to one, like if you were going to put one more character in Soul Calibur, who would it be?
I mean, Kratos would be great in that game.
Would you do like Kratos on PlayStation and the Master Chief on Xbox, or would you pick somebody else?
If you had to pick one that's like cross-platform, I don't know. I can't think of a great protagonist that's jumping out at me. Like Lara Croft is not a great fit for that universe. I wouldn't put someone like that in there. Do you think? Are you thinking of anyone specific?
No, I couldn't. For cross-platform, I was actually struggling because like and I guess it might work because who knows what'll happen here in the future. But like I was thinking like 2B from Nier for PlayStation would be awesome. Because like just that fits like with how that game, the combat in that game would fit, you know, within as a little obviously more actiony, but like I think that would fit really well there. And I actually was really struggling with thinking of like from a gameplay perspective, an Xbox character that would fit really well into that world. But yeah, so that's why I asked you.
They could probably like Jewel from Recore, if she aged a little bit, would be okay. I mean, she doesn't have the hand-to-hand combat down, but Cortana would be awesome if
Cortana would be really cool.
Her just put in like a physical body.
Oh, absolutely, that'd be a great pick.
Yeah, or maybe it's someone from Mass Effect. That's an all console spanning one.
Oh yeah,
Garrus or Rex.
Yeah, Rex would be pretty cool. So, all right. So my next one has to do with, and it's kind of based off of, you know, what has become easily one of my favorite games of all time. Like it definitely would be in my top 10 now. So this is based off of the idea of Overwatch. However, what you would do, so it's a hero-based shooter, but what you have is a extremely stereotypical high school setting. So you have like on the student side, you have like the punk and the jock and the nerd and the band geek and the drama kid and like all of those people. And then on the teacher side, you have like the science teacher and the math teacher and, you know, the principal and like all of those people, the school nurse, like all of those people.
Yeah.
And every game that you go into, you are either on the student side or the teacher side. And then you have your array of characters that you pick from those so like the administration, you have to pick one of the teachers or whatever it might be, and they all have different variable player powers and they have different abilities. And then every game is just similar to like a game of Overwatch, whether it be capture the point or push a payload or even team deathmatch, where you go out and then that is how the action of the game basically is, teachers versus students. So rather than Overwatch right now, where like, you see a lot of similar team comps where you see like Diva is like a 98% pick rate in Overwatch League right now. She's like, basically you're going to see her on both sides every time. You can't see that anymore because you are always playing one group. And yeah, some things might be similar and the roles are going to be similar, but how they do those things is very different. So there's my second idea, sir. How does that fit for you? A student versus teacher hero shooter, which probably doesn't sound great in this day and age, but Overwatch is colorful enough and fun enough. Like that's from an aesthetic standpoint, that's what I'm thinking.
If you make it a food fight, I think it's gonna work.
Sure, we can make it a food fight. That's cool.
Yeah, you gotta. Yeah, in this climate, it's got to be a food fight.
That's fine.
But yeah, hey, I'm up for that. That sounds good to me. I always love to. Wish I could peg my teachers with tomatoes or apples.
That would actually, making a food fight actually would probably be really fun.
Yeah, fulfill that fantasy of non-violent violence.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I don't understand why the teachers are throwing food back though.
You have to defend yourself.
That's true. It's just gotten so out of hand that you have to go with it. So yeah, so that's like the, and maybe it doesn't, a school doesn't have to be the thing, but for me, that's where I saw like the biggest like disparate, like you have these very two distinct groups that are interacting in the same space, So yeah, I think having any hero shooter like that though, where you can't have the exact same team, like you can't have mirrored team comps, because it's fun. Like, and if you're really into the game, it's cool. But this would definitely add some spice to the life. That is for sure.
Yeah.
So, sir, what is another mashup, not smash up, mashup that you would think would be awesome?
Sharks and tornadoes.
Hey, that's not even taken, sir.
Crap. This one is a 3 times mashup.
Oh boy.
So it's going to involve a movie license and 2 styles of board games.
Okay.
So are you familiar with the board game Viral?
I am.
Are you familiar with the board game Fog of Love?
I know the name. I don't know much about playing it though.
Well, this is a licensed Inner Space board game. Inner Space the movie.
Oh!
Where you are going to be playing as the lead of the movie, which I want to say was Bill Paxton.
I think so.
Oh boy, I'm going to be mad if I screw that up. It's Paxton or Pullman. You know how that whole thing works.
That's why I said I think so, because man, that gets me every time.
And Meg Ryan. So what you will be doing is you're going to be fighting off viruses inside of the human body while trying to maintain your relationship with your girlfriend via Fog of Love mechanics.
Mm.
And one person will play as the Inner Space, we'll call him astronaut, internaut. And one person will be playing as the female lead, but the game has to be different than Fog of Love because it will have to be blind card placement for the female character because with the person playing the female role, because she can't see what's going on inside of the body.
Mm-hmm.
So the cards that the person playing the female character, their interactions will have to be based on essentially luck. You will be able to emote things via like emote cards. So the person can try to get a read of like what type of first play they should, like angry, sad, confused, concerned, worried, all these kinds of things where they can play off each other. But ultimately, the person playing the female will be carrying the load of the relationship aspect of the game, while you'll be busy fighting off viruses in different organs in the body, a la viral. So in my mind, it sounds super cool, and as I talk about it, it sounds less and less cool and more complicated. But I think just like you don't see very many comic movie licenses made into successful video games, I don't even think you really see any movie licenses even tried to be made into board games, with the exception of the past Jim Henson stuff that has come out. Like we have Labyrinth, and I know they just did Dark Crystal.
Right. Well,
and Clue, like the Clue theme games, but I don't think as a whole, like if you look at what you would consider a good board game, I don't think you're going to see too many. I know like Battlestar Galactica, but that's a TV show.
Right.
Firefly TV show.
Right. Well, I mean, there was a movie.
Sure. Yeah.
Really quick. So Interspace, are you talking about the movie from the 80s, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay. Actually,
Dennis, it's not even either of them. Dennis Quaid. Okay.
Dennis Quaid. Yeah, like it's Dennis Quaid.
Sorry. Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. When I looked, I was like, oh dang it. Day after tomorrow. How could I forget? So Star Wars says, hey, how you doing? Because there's some pretty good Star Wars board games. Like,
yeah, okay, you're right. And Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and Star Wars says, hey, how you doing? Lord of the Rings. Well, but Lord of the Rings, I mean, you could argue some of the best, and like some of the best ones, like War of the Ring and things like that, like book. It's not just
that's true.
It's not just movie, but Star Wars, they're
not such a huge mega license. I guess maybe I'm just thinking of like the smaller stuff.
Right. No, for sure. And we are getting some again though, like we're getting some Avengers games now and things like that and stuff. But again, there's obviously the comic backing that existed far longer than the movies have. So I think that sounds interesting though. I think that is a potential interesting multifaceted game that would I think that has some potential for sure.
Cool. Or you could do like a Braveheart, like Summoner Wars game, like one side, cool. One side's the Celts, and that would be fun.
That would be very cool. And this isn't exactly like the mashup that I want to make, but it's the mashup I want to make in my head, and I don't know how this would work very well, but I want to make like and I shouldn't even say like an Arkham style game because I don't want it to be like an Arkham style game. I think a lot of people want like an Arkham style like Ninja Turtles game and things like that. I want like a really deep, gritty, like single player superhero game. Like linear, not open world, but just like this linear, like story based, like if Naughty Dog were going to make a superhero game, like that's what I want to see is just something like, and I don't even know, like it doesn't have to be a specific superhero. It doesn't have to be, I went to Ninja Turtles first, but I don't even know if it would have to be that. I mean, for some reason, I just really want that, individual story told almost like we're getting from like the Marvel movies in a way, but like in the video game format where, we're having these long cutscenes with deep dialogue. And that stuff isn't always great, maybe, and people are going through that. And that's something that I think I would really enjoy seeing rather than, this focus on, and then maybe it'll go away, but this focus on open world, play these things, and with lots of other people. And, I'm obviously interested to see what Crystal Dynamics Adventures game is going to be. But and Spider-Man, like I'm super, super excited for. Like I think Spider-Man looks awesome, and the stuff Game Informer is doing this month looks amazing. But I really want that, like, just narrow, like, less is more story. Right. Yeah.
Even Batman, I was like, Batman, it's open world.
Yeah, I mean, the first one less, like,
but still, like, you have to, like, go all over the place.
Right. I really would just love that very linear, story-driven superhero game. That's something I would love to see.
Because the problem you have, I think the reason, I always think, like, why can't they do that? Like, because I don't think that they have figured out a way to convey the powers of the said super person. So, like, can you imagine them making a Superman game where he doesn't fly?
Right. And maybe
or
that's
like
where, something with like a Black Widow story makes more sense.
right, or go like a Green Arrow
Right.
or stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah. And not, Superman or someone who, or Iron Man necessarily even, or anything like that, where it's a little more of a grounded character who maybe has like unnatural abilities, but not maybe supernatural,
right,
or
right.
superhero type abilities. I think that'd be really cool to see something like that. And maybe that,
Constantine.
yeah, exactly.
That would be a good one.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that the game exists and I'm just not thinking of it, but I
I
think in
keep
this,
thinking. I don't think so. Darkness was close, but I
Mhm.
wouldn't consider him a superhero. It's
Yeah.
definitely an anti-hero.
Yes, that is true. Did you play Darkness and Darkness 2?
Yeah, I mean, you got the voice acting alone is worth. I would listen to that game for hours.
Because I've heard this. I played, man, 2 hours maybe of the first one,
Yeah,
but I've heard the second one is significantly better.
it's way better. Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
just from controls alone.
I never played the second one because I was like, after the couple hours of the first one, I was like, oof.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the first one wasn't great, but it was a good leap forward for games like that. Like there weren't a lot of games with that dark humor and grittiness to it. I'm forgetting his name, but the lead singer of Faith No More is the voice.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I'm blanking on his name, and I know his name. Um,
My old
but
man brain is killing me right now.
so yeah, it's right. Anyways,
Anyway,
he's such a good voice actor, and I really like what he brought to that role. So I really like the game a lot, and the second one was leaps and bounds better. Same style though, like um, just and it's in my head, and I know you're looking it up, and it's gonna pop into my head.
I know I'm trying to Mike Patton.
Yeah, Mike Patton.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dang it.
yeah,
As soon as I saw it too, I was like, that's it.
yeah. But you're right. I think like they tried it with Iron Man, the first one. I think on
Mhm.
PlayStation 2. It was
Yeah.
close, but it wasn't a great game.
Right.
And then the Incredible Hulk, there was one good Hulk game, but that ended up being an open world game. So
Right.
it's not a good example.
Yeah. So yeah, that's just what I want to. I want Naughty Dog to make that game, and I don't know. Maybe some people would argue that the powers that Nathan Drake has are that game. Like maybe
Yeah,
he
Luck was a superhero.
right like luck was an ability. So yeah, maybe people would argue that is what that game would be like. I don't know.
Or like God of War.
Yeah, maybe. I have heard, that one guy who does that really small show, Greg Miller, talked about how like there's a boss fight in God of War that is like the best superhero boss fight in any game ever. So, I mean, and that guy knows a little bit about comics and video games, so maybe he knows what he's talking about.
Bit.
But yeah, maybe this God of War game will be that. Who knows? That could be. So, you have one more mashup that you'd like to share, or are you spent?
No, I'm spent. I mean, I thought about it. I was thinking about it all day today.
Mm-hmm.
And well, since not all day, but since you messaged it to me, and like it's complicated because like we already touched on it. Like a lot of the things I would want to see, we already have them. Like the Star Wars stuff. I'm like, a Star Wars Catan would be really cool. Oh, well, they have Starfarers of Catan,
right.
And they have a Star Wars Carcassonne. But then I was like, I don't want to just like slap licenses on games either.
Right.
Because then I was like, Potion Explosion and Harry Potter makes sense to go together. But what are you really doing if you put those two together? Because you're either going to be taking the game Potion Explosion because it's the marbles. If you do a Harry Potter game without the marbles, like it's not Potion Explosion anymore.
Right.
So it's just one of those complicated things. Like Firefly, the game is Firefly, like Catan almost, or like a stylized version of that, where you're traveling through tiles and doing like all these things. Like when I think about my favorite, and so maybe a Batman game would be great to have that doesn't cost $400 to own.
Kidding.
I mean. Because I know they do like Batman Escape from Arkham, but I've heard that game isn't very good.
Mm-hmm.
Batman Love Letter is kind of just a lazy theming of Love Letter. I have it because it's animated series Batman. I have to have that. But what? Yeah, maybe I don't know. Just off the top of my head, what if we did Batman the animated series game mashed up with Lords of Waterdeep,
Oh,
where Arkham Asylum is a place like and Wayne Manor, and you're I don't know you're controlling the heroes and you're moving
hmm.
them around the board to take out the villains. But like take a theme that's strong and put it into a game that's great.
Right. That might draw more people in because some people
Or
don't
even
want to
like
play it because it's
yeah,
Dungeons
or
and
even like
Dragons.
Shadows of a Camelot idea.
Hmm.
Like you're like you go to the Batcave and Wayne Manor to like rest, but then you have to go fight off the the Arkham prisoners trying to escape Arkham instead of the
Hmm.
pikes at the bottom. And you're trying to collect um bad guys to put back in Arkham, and those count as the circles around where the round table is
Yeah,
or
or if
something
you
like
even
that.
wanted to get it more like Knights of the Round Table style, you could do it with Justice League or with the
Yeah,
Avengers.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, something like that.
I'm surprised that actually hasn't happened now that you say that. I'm
they,
kind of
they, sh-
surprised that there
they should
hasn't
just
been.
be more Batman games, or even like I think DC's a little with the
Well, they don't need anything
DC.
else. They have the DC deck building game.
Uh,
They really don't need
well, that's
anything
what I mean.
else.
Maybe they're a little tepid on, because that game wasn't met very well.
But I
Although
feel like it's
people play it,
sold. Yeah, I was like, I feel like it's
people
sold
play
really
it.
well.
Yeah, they still keep coming out with expansions. I
I
don't know
know.
how. They just did a new 52, and I'm like, oh, should I get this game now because I'm interested in the new 52?
It's funny. My a friend of mine that I work with, her partner, her husband is really into board games. Every once in a while, she'll talk to me about a new game her husband got, and she just showed me because he just got new Calyx shelving for his game room. She's like, yeah. So she was showing me pictures of the game room. She's like, which of these games do you know? I was like, oh gosh, are we really gonna go through every shelf? So we went through every shelf, and I was like, oh yeah, I know that, I know that, I know that. But he has like an entire like Calyx like cube that is all just like the DC deck building game and like all the expansions for it. And I was like, I thought we had like most of them. Clearly not. Like when I looked at that, I was like, man, we are way behind on those things, which is fine. Like we don't play it that often, but
Yeah.
man,
They do
you're
a lot
right.
of
They just
booster pack expansions, so they have a low profile. You don't really see them so much because they're just in those small little card
yep.
packs. I noticed it every once in a while,
So
but
man,
because like
so
legendaries are always huge boxes, so it's obviously
yes.
like I see them as soon as I walk into the store. I'm like, oh my god, another legendary's out.
Yeah, there are a lot of legendaries as well. So
Yeah.
man, I had another idea, but then we got so excited about
Uh,
Justice League and Avengers Shadows over Camelot that then I forgot what it was. But that's okay because hey, this has been a great podcast, and I think we should wrap it up. What do you say, sir?
that's a great idea. I think so. Uh, you guys know the drill. Clearly, I don't because I still don't have it pulled up and ready to go. But as usual, thank you guys for listening. We honestly, truly love what we do, and we love that people are listening. We would do this if no one listened, I think. Um, but it's nice that you're listening. Just let us know you're listening. Shoot us a tweet. Say hi on Instagram. Join us on Facebook. It's at Board with VG on all of those. Um, Kyle hits all the important stuff on those up front, but I mean, I do my best to share what I'm doing. I'm not a nature photographer. I'm not going to give you the best pictures in the world, but I'm going to try to give you some to convey what we're playing and how we're feeling. I'm going to skip my plugs today to plug a different podcast, if that's okay.
Yeah, go to town.
I'm going to plug 9 to 5 Nerds. And I'm plugging these guys, well, mostly because I won something from them. So that's a big plus. I won an autographed copy of Robert Kirkman's new comic, Obsidian Song. He was a guest on their show 2 weeks ago. So I'm excited to get that in the mail. Gotta love me some Kirkman. So he was on their show 2 weeks ago, and they had a regular show last week. If you like, just like kind of like it's like a hangout podcast, like a nerdy hangout podcast, and they talk about everything from Comic-Con to relevant current TV shows to debating Disney movies and what their relevance is, and they're really cool. I really enjoy listening to their show, and and I believe they are also a listener of our show. So I like to keep it in the Podern family, if you will. So check them out. I'll tweet at some point. I'll at them on Twitter so you guys can see where to find them and give them a listen. And Kyle.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, PlayStation Network, Xbox Live, Board Game Geek, all at Psychocross, CYCOCROSS. I will actually be on, I'm scheduled to be on the flagship placement PSVG podcast this week. So hopefully that'll happen as long as I don't have any scheduling issues, but that is the plan currently. So if you have things you want us to talk about on there, let me know. As always, if you have any suggestions for future topics, be sure to reach out to us on the social media. Email us at boardwithvg@gmail.com and let us know what you want us to talk about. As Josh said, we love doing this because we love interacting with you, chatting about games, and all fun, cool things that there are for us to chat about. So, with that being said, everyone, as always, whether it be board games or video games, never stop gaming.